And it is another edition of Rock Talk right here on CGCM Rock Radio. This is where we talk rock because that's how we roll. And my name is Bob Bannister. Thank you for joining us for this edition. And we are talking to Sam from the Midnight Devils, fresh off their tour of Australia and Japan. Welcome aboard, Sam. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Bob. How are you today?
Fantastic. Thank you.
Awesome.
So how was it over in Australia and, or I should say down in Australia and over in Japan?
I'll tell you this. It was our second time being in Australia. First time we went over, it was under interesting circumstances. We were supposed to be touring supporting Donnie V from Enough's Enough. He backed out of the tour and we ended up going by ourselves, which was like, I thought kind of a ballsy move, but we'd already invested so much time and energy into it. And we didn't know how it would work. And it worked so well. We were so well received that they invited us back this time. So this time coming back in, we'd already knew some people. We knew the lay of the land. It wasn't as such an extreme cultural shift that we were expecting. This time through, we go in, we knew that the audiences would be primarily AC/DC fans and that they would absolutely love the Midnight Devils. Once they got over the image and accepted that we were, wild and crazy dudes, then they loved it. And it was perfect. It was a really well-built tour. The shows were packed and people came there with the intent to party. And that's exactly what we do best. So it was kind of I loved it because we got to meet so many AC/DC nerds, which is not a bad thing, which is like the coolest thing to say ever, And then we went to Japan flying. We played a show in Australia in the afternoon. They do Sunday afternoon shows. We walked off stage. We took a shower backstage in this dirty club and then jumped on a plane and flew to Japan and had a show later that night. So it was just this whole thing where you just kind of were along for the ride. And the shows in Japan were way better than I ever anticipated. A foreign band in a foreign country, you never know what you're going to get into. And they loved it. They loved the rock and roll. They loved the look. Everything was really good.
That's very cool. And Australia right now is such a hotbed. There's so much great rock coming out of Australia. And I think that they are an untapped resource, to put it bluntly.
I would completely agree with you. And it's like the audience is compared to the USA. I love the USA. And I always say this, US bands hit harder than any bands from around the world. And I've seen it a million times over. But US crowds are a bit lacking. And I think maybe distracted or something, where it seems like when we go to Australia or to Europe, it's such a lifestyle and such a way of living that people came to listen to great rock and roll music. And then not only that, but talk to you about bands that you love and talk to you where you grew up. And it's just such a cultural thing that it's just ingrained. And Australia just leads the way. And let's be real, they're wild, insane Australians that came for a good time. Like I said it then when we started, that's exactly what they're tailor-built for.
Absolutely. And would you say it's easier for an American band to tour in Australia than it would be vice versa for an Australian band to come to the US?
I absolutely think it is. And I think that is, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, where we're kind of that American audience is more and not as receptive to new things coming in, and it's very difficult for a band to come over to the States and start playing, where when we go out and we travel around the world, we're kind of embraced with open arms and people are ready for it. And they're ready for that kind of excitement.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. So let's talk about the band for a little bit. Give us the backstory of the Midnight Devils.
Absolutely. We started, it was Sniper and I, the guitar player. We started this band in 2016. We were playing in a 80s hair metal tribute band. And we kind of decided, while this is really cool, we wanted to be the masters of our own destiny. We wanted to create our own art form. We wanted to travel. We wanted to do things the way that we wanted to do it. So we started a 2-piece acoustic DAC that played in Nebraska and Iowa, all through the Midwest, just 2-piece acoustic. And it was rough. It was difficult. But I could see it. I could see that the music worked and the look and the image. So we just kept going and we kept going. And finally, we were like, we need a drummer. We found a drummer. It didn't work out with our first guy, but luckily, just by like the universe aligning, we got a hold of Jimmy Mess, who is now, he's been our drummer since the beginning, since 2018. I believe he came in 2017. We did our first album in 2018. But he was, we call him the glue that holds the band together. He is the heart of rock and roll. He's the wild man. He's everything that a drummer should be. A great rock and roll drummer should be. So that's how we got him. 2018, we put out something bigger. We did a lot of touring in the US. We did our first LA shows, and then 2000 the pandemic hit, and that was kind of the brilliant time to stop touring and do another record. We did 2022's album, Never Beg for It. Chips Enough produced it in Chicago, and that's the album that kind of broke us out and took us around the world. And so now we're sitting here, July 5th, 2024, we released our third album, So Hard It Hurts, and we've already done, two huge countries. We're about to do two more in this year.
That is cool. And you just mentioned, just walked right into my next question. So Hard It Hurts, great album. Get Laid, the first single off that.
Yeah.
But listening to it, I got to Hell to Pay, and I'm thinking, I know this sounds really familiar. And I listened to it again, and it's like, this is Van Halen. This
Absolutely.
is Van Halen. Was that intentional, or was it something you just kind of got into and like, wait a minute, guys, this is Van Halen?
It's a very, very cool story. I don't think it's intentional. As you know, for those of you that don't know, our guitar player Sniper is a huge Eddie Van Halen fan, a student of the craft, and I think that's the best way to put it. Always chasing that tone, always has a guitar in his hand, always searching for just that inspiration. I kind of think that Van Halen-esque rubs off on a lot of what we do, but that doesn't mean there's not our other influences like Kiss and like the Ramones, and our punk rock background that we rely on so heavily. And with that song, with Hell to Pay, it was actually a different song before we went into, it was something called Against the Grain. And we went in to our sessions in January with our producer, Rick Browdy, with Cher Ross, Bam Ross. We did it in Florida. They were the people that were responsible for kind of crafting this jagged piece of metal into a smooth, shiny surface. So Rick produced Faster Pussycat. He produced Ted Nugent. He produced Poison. And so with that song especially, we went in and he helped me rewrite the lyrics for that song.
That's cool. Now, you were touching on the look there a little while ago.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a little bit of Kiss, a little bit of early Motley Crue,
Absolutely.
even a little touch of Alice Cooper. Am I missing anything there? I mean, it's a wild, crazy look. I love it.
Absolutely. And we tell people we're not a hair metal band. By any means, we are not a hair metal band. We have big hair, and I love those bands, but that's not what this band is about. We're a glam rock band. We're a party band. And so it's bands like Sweet and T-Rex and Slade and the New York Dolls, but mix that with this punk rock element and with this Van Halen element. And that's kind of where we start, the cauldron starts turning. And with this band, with the Midnight Devils, over the years, since 2016, I've realized that we've kind of created this freedom, a freedom of expression, and a freedom to go out and chase your dreams and be whoever you want to be and dress however you want to dress. Because if anybody says anything, we're right there with the attitude to back it up. And it's always been really cool to explore fashion, to explore music, to explore just anything that's just going to kind of get a rise out of people and that we think is really cool. And we're all just big dorks. We're big kids, and we're like, think we get away with wearing that on stage? Yeah, I totally think it'd be really cool.
Now, you've mentioned something twice in our interview so far here. You mentioned punk rock. Now, we all know that rock is fully making a revival. Do you think punk is on its way back yet?
That I don't know. I wish I did. I wish there were bands that, like Rancid, when I was younger. Rancid was one of those bands that was putting out records and people were excited.
Oh yeah.
And so I don't know that I know there's a lot of great punk bands around, and there's a lot of them still touring, and we take that and we kind of run with it, because we used to do that in a van, in a church van, riding around, sleeping under in the parking lots and stuff like that. That's where we grew up. So we never lost that sight of where we started things. And I think that has to be in there. And that's the realness and the beauty of punk rock, is that it is real. And it's like, there's no frills. And that's what makes our band so different than anybody else. We're not just a rock band. We're not just this glam rock crazy band. There's all these different dimensions and stuff that we've gone through that we can kind of pull out and use to our advantage. So I hope punk rock's coming back. I think it needs to change and shift. And that's always what it is, a change and a shift in what people are thinking and doing.
And I think that's the key to success these days. You can't just be one thing. Like you said,
Mhm.
you're a glam rock band, you're a punk band. You've got to have all these elements in order to succeed in today's music business.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that multi-dimensional, and that's what I keep thinking. This band is so much more than the three of us. It's everybody around the world who kind of feels disenfranchised with rock and roll or new bands coming out. Like, where are the awesome rock and where are the great guitar based, just the crazy people? Like, there's a ton of new bands coming out. There's classic rock bands. You got this band and that band, but there's no glam rock bands coming out. So that's where we fit in. Like, we got the balls to put the lipstick on it and to cover ourselves in glitter, but also we have the skill with Sniper, with Jimmy, to play great metal and to play great rock and roll, guitar driven, heart pounding rock and roll.
So what's next? You were saying you've got another leg of the tour coming up. Where are you headed?
So next up, in just a few weeks, we are headed over to the UK, which will be our third time in the UK in 3 years, playing some amazing places that we've already played before. We're heading over with our US brothers, Kicking Valentina. We're doing 2 weeks over there, and then we fly to Norway and do one show in Norway, a big festival that we played last year, and then we come back home, and it's kind of time to recharge and cool out and plan for what is coming up next. So the tour this year has been incredible. I've been home for like 5 or 6 days now, and I'm already missing it. And we're already getting ready to put everything back into the suitcases and get it back over the pond again.
So it's basically just a touchdown, grab some sleep, grab some fresh laundry, and away you go again.
That's exactly what it is. And kiss the loved ones, kiss the wife and the kids, and I love you guys, and we'll be back soon. We just got like 2 more weeks of this party left to go.
Right on. So here's a question for you. If I was to come to your house, Sam, and I was to go through your records and whatnot,
Yeah.
and what is there something in there that I would come up and go, what's this? Like a guilty pleasures album.
And nothing, I think anything in my, like, and I got a really good record collection. I worked at a record shop for like a year, and so I took home one every night, right? So I have all the classics, the real good stuff, the Led Zeppelins, and you got your Rolling Stones, and the stuff but what I was really interested in and what this record shop specialized in was like black metal and death metal. And so we kind of got into like collecting black metal albums and realized there's this huge subculture of guys that love black metal and are really, really into it. So I got some of that in there. I got a ton of Elvis stuff. I love Elvis, absolutely love. That's probably my guiltiest of guilty pleasures, is the king of rock and roll, Elvis. So I got a ton of that there. Some old records that my dad gave me, and weirdly enough, like a Linda Ronstadt record. But it's kind of where it started, and you kind of keep that, like, your dad gives you the crate of records, and that's where the collection begins.
Yeah, I have to agree. I got from my dad live from San Quentin, Johnny Cash, and I just absolutely love that album. It is a mainstay on my turntable.
I completely agree.
So before we wrap this up, I like to do a little thing we call This or That. It's just a series of rapid fire questions, and you just give us your answer, multiple choice.
Sure.
All right, so here we go. Coffee or tea?
Coffee by the gallon.
Spicy wings or spicy chili?
Let's take non-spicy, but I'll take the wings.
There you go.
I like to tempt fate.
Okay. Beach or amusement park?
Oh, that's a good one. Amusement park for sure.
Video games or board games?
Board games.
Watching movies at home or going to the theater?
Going to the theater.
So when you go to the theater, then is it the nachos or the popcorn?
Popcorn, large, the one you can almost not even finish by the time it's this big. You're like, I'll eat that whole thing, and you get halfway through, and you're like, I've had enough.
It looks like a horse feed bucket, basically.
Yeah, the correct answer would have been, I sneak in my own hot pockets.
Yeah, there you go. And finally, pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Absolutely yes.
There you go. There you go. Hey, Sam from Midnight Devils, why don't you give us your website?
Absolutely. TheMidnightDevils.com. It's really that simple. Just go there, and that kind of links us to all of our social medias. We got a brand new music video out called Get Laid, out on YouTube. We're on all the streaming platforms, Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music. We're very active on Facebook, very active on Twitter and Instagram. So if anybody's interested, hit us up there, leave a comment or a message, and I promise we'll get back to you. It's really that easy.
And it really is that easy, because that's how I got in touch with you too, was through Facebook. It's very cool talking to you, Sam. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Rock Talk.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate it.
And thank you, and we'll catch you again next time.